All right. Today on the Agency Excellence podcast, I'm excited to welcome Kevin Swanepoel. He's the CEO of the One Club for Creativity, a nonprofit supporting global creative excellence. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, great to be here, man. Really appreciate the invite.
Of course, thanks for coming on. So, Kevin, talk to us. What are you working on? What are you doing, and how long have you been in the space?
Oh, man, I've been in the space. It'll be 29 years in November. So I've been here a long time, seen a lot of changes. But, what am I working on? We forever working on change because this industry, as you know, the agency industry forever changes. So, that's the focus here. Really, I've seen it go from just traditional media to the sort of start of the web. In fact, I launched the first interactive award show, the One Show Interactive. Then we saw the emergence of branded entertainment. So we did that. We're the first to do a show on RX or pharmaceutical advertising. And then we're doing brand side, just where brand side agencies are, rising. So it's just always a state of flux. And how do you reinvent yourself or tweak what you're doing to align with what's happening in the industry?
Got it. That makes sense. This space is definitely, absolutely always changing. I'm curious because you guys are operating as a nonprofit.
Correct. Absolutely. So, the beauty is we have five really large, big global award shows. But unlike other models where it's either, the award show, or it's non for profit, not like, other one in the south of France, which is very much for profit. So what we do is we literally take the revenue from all the awards and we put it back into education or professional development or gender equality. How do we make this industry better? That's our goal. That's our focus. When I wake up in the morning, it's like, how do we actually give back to the industry? And how do we create an industry that's really thriving and surviving?
That's powerful, a deeper purpose. So I'm curious, Kevin, throughout the years, what has been maybe the one or two growth levers that made the biggest difference for you as you're scaling?
I think the one big growth level really was when, we were obviously just doing the traditional award shows like, so many other do. But in 2000, I started doing a lot of educational work in China. And we ran that program in China for over 20 years. We just stopped during COVID and then we haven't restarted because the economy there is struggling. But, the big multiplier was taking the learning that we did in China and then bringing it back to the US and now actually abroad to other regions to make a difference in education and inclusion and diversity. We really believe that diverse teams are better than just, teams that all look and sound the same. Having diverse voices in the room really makes us as an industry better. So we adapted that learning and we just saw massive growth and change by doing that.
Wow. What does the one club look like at the next level? What's the vision for the future?
It's a bit challenging right now because with this, current administration that we have, they are really putting a lot of pressure on DEI programs and gender equality programs. So, since 2008, we built the one ID, which is the inclusion and diversity department. So that funding we've seen sort of wane, which is really worrying for us because there are so many people who are underrepresented that just don't have an option to get into the industry. And what we've done is we have now seven schools in total, just operating to try and give those people who are less advantaged an opportunity to get into the industry. So, for us, the next level is going to be a difficult one, the step up from here, because we're trying to sort of find the gaps in revenue from the defunding of DEI, you know?
Got it. Yeah, that's tough. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but I still believe that, with all sort of challenges come opportunity. We've seen that in the past. And, some of the challenges now we see are, the integration of AI into agencies. And we have taken that on as an opportunity for us. We have certainly been leading in the space. We've been doing a lot of AI executive summits. We are trying to bring the leadership of agencies together to really see how to implement AI into your workflows and stuff like that. So, you know, with one challenge, you got to look at it and just say, hey, well, maybe there's opportunity here to make the best out of it.
Got it. And just so I'm clear, and please go easy on me. So, who essentially are the clients that you guys serve? Is it agencies or is it the nonprofits? Is it the
No,
causes?
no, very frankly, our clients, if you want to call it that, the people who matter most to us are agencies and brands where creatives live. So if you are a creative and you happen to be on the agency side, that's been our traditional bread and butter. But, the brand side creatives, everybody else calls them in-house. I don't. I think they're brand side. You just happen to be on the brand side,
Mhm.
and a lot of brands have got really incredibly talented creatives within them doing great work. So for us, it doesn't matter where you are, if you're brand side or agency side, if you're a creative, and we are here to help you either and through your sort of your trajectory as a creative taking you. We've got a lot of leadership courses that'll take you from either, being an art director or writer to a creative director or an executive creative director. So, so that's our real focus. One is, as you said earlier on, is recognizing the best creative work globally, but then taking that revenue and actually helping people enrich as creatives, help them upskill.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. One of the things that we're just about to do now as well is we'll be launching sort of at the end of this month something called One Academy. And that is going to be just a learning platform for us who can go and upskill. And there's a lot of free courses there, and there's some paid courses, obviously, but we try and keep the costs of those just reasonable so people can afford it. And certainly have agencies allow their creatives to upskill because a lot of agencies don't have those training programs anymore. They used to, back in the day when they were flush with cash, and right now, we're filling that void.
Yeah. In a space where creative is driving everything in marketing these days, I think it makes sense to invest into your creative teams and your personal talent.
I think that is something that agencies will really need to figure out going forward. Is really the pricing model for creative services. Because to be frank with you, you can have the best media plan or the best media spend, and the media companies pretty cash flush and they do pretty well. But right now, people are undervaluing creativity. And honestly, you can have the best media plan, but if you've got some terrible ad that's just half baked and doesn't have a creative idea, it's not going to perform well. So honestly, I think it's really up to both clients, brands, and agency leaders or leadership to look to their creative teams and figure out a way to meaningfully charge for the services and the ideas that creatives put out there.
And how do you recommend charging for that? Or like, what is a model that you have found that works really well?
Well, firstly, the model that we've got to kill is the idea that you get charged or you are paid for the hours that you spend creating an idea. You know, when you think about it, the person that created the Nike swoosh was charged or was paid, if I'm not mistaken, and I think they maybe paid them a little bit more down the line, but I think the original designer got $35 for the Nike swoosh. To just even think of that, okay, that here is somebody got paid next to nothing for something that became so iconic. But again, it's when you think of it, the taglines and the copywriting that's done, whether it be a Just Do It or Got Milk, those are campaigns that those brands used for years and years. Have you just boil it down to a couple of hours that it took for a creative to come up with Got Milk? That's insanity. This is intellectual property that creatives are creating, both for brands and agencies, and they deserve to be paid.
Got it. So I guess naturally I have a lot of questions around, a marketing agency, let's say that they're running digital marketing. They typically are on some sort of like retainer model plus like some performance fee, which I think is, a standard model, maybe a flat fee, or maybe it's 100% performance. But either way, there's kind of like this set amount that they're making per month. How do you see creatives being able to participate in the upside of the agency doing well for the brands? Or the creatives participating in the upside of the brands that they're working inside of as their creative performs.
I haven't got this solved. I just think it's something that needs to be solved. But in the same respect, it's that, you know, it's hard to just say that it's got to be based on solely on performance,
Mm.
and, performance metrics, that goes down to a whole lot of things. It goes down to, where it's paced, how it's paced, the creative, how is it iterated upon? Is it working? So, at the end of the day, I think that this is something that the industry at large has to come together to try and figure out. But there has to be some sort of hybrid model where there is some fees based on performance and results, but also the licensing of IP. For instance, we just saw one of the big winners this year where there was a moisturizer that was created for in Thailand for people who are transitioning. And, that's a IP idea. That's a brand. It's a new form of IP that they've come up with to the brand. They've created a product around this. And surely the agency and the creative team should benefit from that. There has to be some model of co-owned ventures with brands and IP.
Interesting. Yeah, that perspective makes sense. I can see that.
I think that, and brands need to align on how do we really pay for creative, because it cannot be done on an hourly basis. It's just simply just an insane way of charging.
And creative is so, I keep going back to this, but the creative is like so valuable to the
Yeah.
success of any campaign.
So the creative's valuable, and then somebody will come up with, let's just say, a media plan. And then if that brand spends $10 million on media placement, it now seems that creative should be given for free. And I mean, like, why are we giving creative for free? Or why are we even discounting creative? Because generally that ad won't perform well if it's a really terrible ad, So how do we pay the creatives for what they deserve?
Yeah. Shifting gears a little bit, Kevin, I'm curious, when it comes to client acquisition, right? When it comes to working with these creatives or the agencies or the brands, what has been the one channel or the one system that's been solid for you throughout the years?
For us, or for agencies as such,
Well, maybe for you guys, and then how you also, attract agencies.
I think the big thing for what we do is we really value good creative work. So that's our mission. So when we judge a great work and we reward it, those individuals generally are sought after because they are good creatives that have done great work for brands that have actually then made the brand perform better. Because a brand performs better, they're going to actually give you more work, or you'll retain the work. I think that the other really big thing around good creative is that, one, creatives don't want to work in an agency that is not really doing well and winning awards, just simply because at the end of the day, their portfolio, their sort of credentials are based on, the work that they've won and how well it's performed. So, if an agency is doing well, you generally attract good talent. You generally get into pitches because people see it. They see it in the press. It's talked about. Oh, and how many times haven't you heard it that a brand or a client will come up to an agency and, can you do me something like that? Because, it's been all over the press and it's got, I mean, I'll never forget the one going back many years ago was subservient chicken. I don't know if you ever remember that. It was for Burger King, where you could tell the chicken to do whatever. And, at that stage of the game, and everybody was going to digital agencies and agencies saying, like, can you do me a subservient chicken? That type of sort of. So it's just, good ads will bring the agency new business. It'll retain business. It'll attract good talent. Yeah.
And Kevin, I'm curious, what stages have you had to gone through as you're growing the company and the agency and having to, manage fulfillment, manage sales, manage operations? What is what bottleneck did you reach first and how did you solve that?
Yeah, I think the growth that we've had has been pretty remarkable. As I say, I've been here, this will be my 29th year. But in 2006, I took over as CEO. I've been, president before. But taking it over CEO, we saw massive amounts of growth in the next 6 or 7 years that followed. The biggest challenge for me, actually, as a leader, was trying to adapt to a much bigger team, trying to keep the reporting structures tight. And to be very frank with you, we still struggle with that a little bit, where we do have a bigger team. We have got teams that are sitting in both Singapore and Shanghai, Barcelona. We've got team members in Chicago and LA and South Carolina. So, it's just really difficult to manage dispersed teams. The growth has been crazy and it's been crazy good, but it's also come with its pains of like, just how do you manage that growth? Yeah.
And what are your secrets to hiring sales team members or individuals that can help you onboard new clients?
Yeah. Well, it's not just even helping us onboard new clients, but, talking about the growth and structure like that, one of the things that I think we've done really well is we've retained people for many years. We've had people, my COO has been around 20 years. We've got the lead on our systems team. Allison, she's been with us for about 16 years. Our data person's been with us for about 15 years. So, we've got some long-standing team players, and I really believe the heart and spirit of what we do is the people. Without the people, I don't believe as an organization would be as strong. We've got an incredible team. We really try and look after them as best as possible. Being a nonprofit, it's a challenge because we don't have the deep pockets of big tech companies or big agencies, but we really try and value our people, and that's I think the real key definer. And we've been lucky enough to hire some incredible people that have come with talents and skills that are lacking within the team. And I think then people embrace them because they realize that, like, oh man, we needed that. And they bring something to the table that we didn't have before.
That's powerful. I mean, the amount of time that you and team members have been there, supporting the cause is really impressive. I think it speaks a lot towards the work that you guys are doing, the culture, the environment, all of those things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I must be honest that, people really come to work and they do like the nonprofit environment where we really do have purpose at the foundation of everything that we do.
That makes sense. Kevin, earlier you mentioned technology and AI. How are you guys leveraging AI? How do you see AI affecting the future of the creative and the agency space?
Yeah. So, I'm sort of my background actually it's interesting because I owned my own agency for 14 years and then I worked for Apple Computer. So, and that was way back when. So, that was when Steve was just coming back. So, I've had a very heavily tech orientated sort of mindset. I was, as I said, the first person to do an interactable board show. So we've been pushing the boundaries on the stuff at all. And we're doing the same with AI. We were the first award show with the Art Directors Club to introduce AI categories. We were also the first to introduce very bespoke GPTs in our judging systems. We are in the process of doing a massive revamp on our archives and our judging systems as well. So, as a company, we lead certainly with technology, but more importantly, it's not even just trying new technology for technology's sake, but it's where is it appropriate? So for us, it's appropriate to bring it into this vast. We have an archive which is got about 500,000 ads and case films and all the data around it, whether it be the credits or the descriptions. How do we utilize AI to rebuild that and make it, the best property out there for archives? So, that's what we're doing. And I'm pretty confident that within the next couple of months, we'll be sharing something really exciting with the industry.
Awesome. We look forward to that. That'd be really cool to see what you guys got cooking over there. Kevin, I'm curious what areas of life you've had to master on this journey. And yeah, can you speak on that a little?
Life. Honestly, I say this a lot because for me, the biggest thing was lifelong learning. To be frank with you, and any person who is trying to get ahead in any area, if you aren't lifelong learning, if you aren't really focusing on what's going on in the industry, what's going on related to tech and like, for instance, now AI. You know, I was the first person on our whole staff, and I'm the CEO, for God's sake, and I'm the first person to actually build my own GPT. And, I showed it to the staff at our staff retreat almost a year and a half ago. And everybody just like rolled their eyes, like, here he goes again, like, another crazy idea. But, I brought to the team, I said, like, we're going to implement this. And they've embraced it. And now what I'm seeing is just the team members that I have sort of said, like, okay, we're doing this. Now you got to figure it out. And what they've learned and what they've done has just been incredible. I've got fairly junior team members who are embracing these things and they're learning by it and they're showing up with it. So, passing that on to the team is critical. But, I do it myself. I'm always learning new applications, new systems, new things, because if you're not as an organization and as an individual, you're going backwards.
That makes sense. I'm curious how much of your early days at Apple have inspired you to be the visionary, the leader that you are today.
I think it had a really large part to play in it, really. Just having, as a young creative, and then be involved with Apple and seeing the sort of campaigns that TBWA and Steve put out. And the one that, really comes to mind is Here's to the Crazy Ones, because that's how I felt. One, I was like so gung ho about this company. And then they came out with that campaign, and I actually still have some of the original big posters of that. And, just here's to the crazy ones, here's to the misfits, and the square pegs in the round holes, like this is the shit, this is the mantra that we feel as creators. And it really played to me, and it was just this huge, big learning experience for me, and certainly propelled me to be what I am. Thank you.
I've got goosebumps.
But
Wow.
I'll tell you another crazy thing though, was that, that's when I was in South Africa that came out. And then when I came to the US and I started the One Club, we had a Hall of Fame and Lee Clow was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And here's the guy who did all that work, who I got to meet, one of my heroes. And, just he is, again, a great surfer and a good friend and just one of the craziest ones of them all.
Surfing. Yeah, we were chatting about surfing earlier. Before we go down that path, and I want to start to wrap up here, but I'm curious. This is a question that came to mind as you were talking about Apple. I'm curious if in that point in time, as you're seeing, Cheers to the Crazy Ones campaign that being released, did you guys ever imagine that Apple was going to be as big as they are today?
No, I can tell you now that they were close to going under. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do if it goes under? But crazy story. I mean, this is just a very anecdotal thing, but the crazy story is that you were allowed to take 10% of your salary in stock options. And I did that just because I believed in the product. I was like a real fanboy. And I held on to that stock for, oh my goodness, so many years that when I cashed it in, the average share price was around 13 cents a stock, each, stock. And at that time, it was $112, I think it was when I sold it. So yeah, that was real fun. But I've been long invested in Apple as well since then because I just firmly believe in it. But under no imagination ever did we see, Apple reaching $3 trillion even, not even $1 trillion. At that stage, it was they might be going out of business. Yeah.
That's so crazy. Wow. Getting ready to wrap up here. Surfing. We connected on surfing. I'm curious how surfing in sports has played a part in you kind of escaping from the stresses and the everyday challenges of running a business.
I think for those of you who have done it or would like to do it, it's not a sport, it's a lifestyle, it's just a way you choose to live your life. And, surfing for me was always that one thing that really brought you back to the center. Even today, I try and spend at least 3 or 4 days a week walking on the beach every morning. I get up before the sun rises and I'm walking on that beach just to be at one with the elements and the sea, the ocean. And unfortunately, where I walk, I can't surf because I'm in Southwest Florida, so there's no waves here. But yeah, as I say, I'm taking that bad boy. I'm gonna go kite surfing now because yeah, there's no break near me. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to hear how the trip goes, and
Let's hope I come back in one piece.
you got this. It's so complicated. You've got the wind, you've got the water, you've got people around you. You've got nature, and
And now you've got to add that element, like with this thing, you've got a kite as well. So you've got the wind and a kite and a
yes,
board and waves. And now you've got to try and sort of get that all together. It's pretty much like managing a business. You've got clients and you've got staff and you've got economy and stuff around you. You've got tariffs and you've got all these things. It's like trying to juggle a business. There's so many elements that you've got to try and control to be able to go in the right direction.
yeah, and then to get back in the other direction.
Hopefully you'll get back. Exactly.
Kevin, this has been really fun. Where can people learn more about you, the One Club, any of the causes that you're working on, or just
Yeah.
talking about kiting or surfing?
Yeah. Just come on over to oneclub.org and you can find out all the things we do. We do over 80 events a year. So, there's all these educational programs that we do. Otherwise, hit me up on LinkedIn or on Instagram. Just love to connect with people in the industry and yeah, just happy to share the insights, the journey, and also I think really education. We are here as a nonprofit educational organization to help get people to the next level. And that's just our real core that we focus on every day. So I know we've, as an organization, have been instrumental in helping so many people through their careers. So anybody else who needs an uplift or some help, just reach out to us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kevin, for coming on today.
Hey, Chris, thank you, man. This has just been an absolute pleasure and just a nice chat.
You're welcome. Looking forward to round two after you got the AI and all that stuff launched, and you can share it with the audience.